Welcome to postseason Prem and Proper Part 1, or Part Primary. A lot of alliteration from anxious anchors placed powerful posts. Host Nyle over there, Jon over here. And what we're going to do is Nyle has looked at the 20 teams that will be playing in the Premier League in the 22-23 season. We're going to go over all of their woes and their issues and who Nyle thinks they might be looking at to solve those woes and solve those issues. Nyle, thanks for coming on and doing the homework for another go round of Prem and Proper.
Yeah, of course. This was very fun to do, as you know, it's just right around the transfer window, so teams are starting to get business done. We've already seen some get quite a bit of business done already, but there's still plenty of teams that are just starting their business. So I mean, it's very interesting to see the players they're linked with and what they're potentially doing in the transfer window. So yeah, that was fun.
All right, so let's start at the top of the ladder. Manchester City, 38 matches played, a record of 29-6-3. They didn't quite score 100 goals. They only scored 99. So what do they need to do to get that 100th goal on the board and give up less than 26 if they want to repeat?
Well, first off, I think that they need a new midfielder, I think, to replace Fernandinho, as he's getting up there in age, and also he has been pretty much clear that he wants to leave. So Calvin Phillips is a guy that City have been linked with, according to the Telegraph, that City are expected to formalize their interest in Phillips, and that they will officially make their move after England is done with their international matches. And Pep sees Phillips as a replacement for Fernandinho, and they're preparing a test like Leeds resolve. So that is one. And then also a left back is something that need to strengthen in. Obviously, Mendy is in prison, so he can't play. And Zinchenko is not necessarily a starter, but they have two possibilities. Marc Cucurella is one of them. According to the Athletic, City are interested in signing the Brighton left back, and then also Bukayo Saka. As according to the Daily Mail, City is ramping up interest in Saka, as he is yet to agree to a new contract with Arsenal. And also Liverpool are sort of interested in Saka as well, apparently, but City is looking to beat Liverpool in that race. So.
Well, I mean, you look at Bukayo Saka, and I know that he'll probably come up a couple of different times in this conversation here,
Yes.
having at least in part one. But his season really, if you're looking to really make an impact and be shown and leave Arsenal, he definitely had the season to do it. And I know that Manchester City is not not the only destination that's looking for a future Bukayo Saka sighting.
No, of course not. I mean, tons of teams are interested in him. I also mentioned Liverpool. I mean, I feel like any top team in the Premier League would want a player of his quality. I mean, he's young, but he's very good for his age, very mature player. Had a fantastic season with Arsenal. He was just recently awarded best player of the year for the club. So yeah, I think Arsenal also need to try and get him to agree to a new contract, because having him leave to another club would be a huge loss to them and a big advantage for whatever club would be acquiring them. So yeah, I think he's definitely a player that I think any club would want. He's a bright talent, a lot of star power. And yeah, so.
And you mentioned Cucurella, and we know what he has been able to do for Graham Potter and Brighton. That's another interesting one. And what you're seeing from a Manchester City is that while they can break the bank in bringing in someone like an Erling Haaland, they're also using their scouting system, and they're working from South America, bringing folks up. They're understanding that there's a market that can be had there, and you don't have to break the bank. And though I know that you and I will probably agree that intra Premier League deals, meaning teams inside the Premier League dealing with themselves, have a high inflation rate when it comes to transactions. If you can find somebody like Cucurella that can come in from Brighton and you're not breaking the bank, it'll help you out with the experience or the depth really that you need at the back. That's something else that can help you out as well. So you can spend money on folks like Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, City already, as you mentioned, they already signed Holland, and that was a big signing for them, but also they need signings to sort of be depth pieces as well. I mean, Cucurella would be a great one, and potentially as a starter perhaps as well. as he has the quality. And also Bukayo Saka. I think with a lot of these players as well, the City are kind of looking at their situation and sort of seeing, okay, like what's going on with the player. Maybe they're struggling with a new contract with this club, like Arsenal, for example, with Saka, and they're looking to take advantage of those players in those situations because they know they're quality players. So.
And we'll get up to Arsenal here coming up. I think they'll be batting fifth in our order, so we'll be coming up with Arsenal in just a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what Manchester City does, especially if they can bring in FA Cup starting the backliner, Mark Cucurella from Brighton. Liverpool, number 2, 38 matches played, 28-2. They only scored 94 goals on the season. They also gave up 26, which should be an interesting offseason heading into the transfer window with a couple of their big names.
Yeah, it should be. Mane is the one that's been heavily linked with the move to Bayern.
For
Bayern.
only 30 million or 34 with bonuses, that to me sounds like Bayern really wanted to lowball him at the start, man.
Yeah, and you know what? That offer is just laughable. If you're a Liverpool, you're not going to take that offer for a player that's of his quality. That's a Ballon d'Or contender, and he's one of the top scorers in the Premier League, and you're gonna take what 30 million for him?
Yeah.
No, Liverpool's not that stupid to like say, yeah, sure, we'll take it. Nobody will take that amount of value for a player like Sadio Mane. So I mean, come on, Bayern, you have to improve your bid at least a
Step
lot.
your game up, Bayern Munich.
Step up your game. Come on, you have the money. I mean, you're a big club. And if you really want Mane, I mean that's kind of a disrespect to a player of his quality. Just 30 million for him. I mean, come on. So
30 million and 4 million in bonuses. Sure, I'll jump
yeah,
for that. No.
yeah, 100%. Liverpool will absolutely jump for that.
What else is on your mind for Liverpool?
So they had,
Salah. I mean, you've got Mo Salah also
yeah,
sitting there who is saying that, yeah, I was thinking about signing a deal and staying longer, but then you get those folks courting from La Liga, and now Mo Salah's thinking, well, maybe I'll just leave on free after next year.
yeah. I mean, it's like a very tricky situation with Salah and Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool obviously want Salah to stay, but obviously they can only offer so much in terms of like wages and whatever Salah wants. I mean, I think like they're not going. Liverpool wants Salah, and of course he's a key player, but they're not going to like break their wage bank or what have you to like sign Salah to a new contract. I mean, that's just not how they work. They're very organized club, Liverpool. So it's a very tricky one. I would say that if at this point, I mean, letting him go on a free would be honestly quite a disaster, especially if it is to like a Premier League rival, for example.
Oops.
Uh, which is apparently to reports that's something that he's willing to do. So I mean, at this point, I mean, I think it's gotten to the point where Liverpool probably just have to find a place for him to like be sold. Letting him go on a free, I think it's just a bad look for everybody, because he's a quality player. I mean, he was one of the best players in the world this season. Just a top goal scorer. I mean, he adds any quality to a team. So I mean, you have to find some value with letting him go, because if not, then that's pretty bad. If you're Liverpool. So I mean, it's very tricky. As much as I want him to stay, this is kind of dragging on like for far too long at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if you have teams out there that are willing to pay for him a certain amount, then I would sell him at this point. So.
And it looks like they're also missing out on Rafinha from Leeds in the Rafinha sweepstakes as well. We'll keep an eye on Liverpool. Chelsea was third, 21-11-6, 74 points, 3 points ahead of Spurs. To finish third, they kind of had their ups and downs, and with all of the upheaval finally behind them with Bowley Clearlake, now their owners. What do you think Chelsea's got to do to maintain their top standing in that second group?
Oh, wait, John. I think for Liverpool, we forgot a potential signing.
Who?
Darwin Nunez.
Oh, yeah. That's what, 80 million euro on the board, I think?
Yeah, according to Fabrizio Romano, there's been an official proposal from Liverpool for the Uruguayan striker will be 80 million euros plus add-ons for a total of 100 million euros.
Of
So
course. Sure.
that that breaks that breaks the transfer record for Liverpool. Their last record transfer signing was Van Dijk for I think 75 million or around that price tag.
Sounds about right.
And then, so yeah, Benfica will make a decision soon, as Manchester United are also in contact with Nunez's agent. But to be honest, I think at this point, Liverpool might be the ones leading the race for him, and they are prepared to offer him a 5-year deal. But it now all depends now on Benfica's decision. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes.
80 to 100 million euro, not a bad neighborhood to be living in. So Chelsea at number 3. What's on your mind with Chelsea?
Oh man,
Todd Bowley's going to spend. We know that.
yeah, for sure. They have quite a few needs. First of all, they need another center back, especially after the departure of Rudiger. And there are a few potential options for that. One of the players that has frequently come up for them is Jules Koundé.
Okay.
He's been constantly linked with the move to Chelsea, not just like this year, but also like the past year or so. Also Presnel Kimpembe. This is apparently Tuchel's preference for center back, according to Sky Sports. And then Jose Jimenez of Atletico Madrid is also being looked at. Preferably, I think my top choice for this would be Koundé. He's a really good defender, but also, of course, his price tag is maybe something that, I mean, it depends on how much Sevilla are willing to let him go. But yes, center back is definitely a position they need to address. And then also potentially striker is another position they need to address.
What, you don't believe in Romelu Lukaku?
Well, he's been linked with the loan move back to Inter.
Of course he has.
So I know Lautaro Martinez is a name that has come up. Apparently Chelsea are already considering a move for him, according to the Athletic, if Lukaku was to leave this summer. And then Nkunku is also an option. He would be a cheaper option to Martinez. I think also midfield is a place where Chelsea can strengthen in. I know Ibrahim Sangare is an option Chelsea reportedly liked Tuchel, but of course he joined Real Madrid for 100 million euros or something insane like that. So Sangare is seen as an alternative for that. And then Levi Colwill is another option. He's impressed on loan with Huddersfield this season and is thought of potentially emulating Chalobah. And also right back as a position I've heard come up a bit. Achraf Hakimi is a player that's been looked at, according to the Athletic, sources suggest that they're monitoring his situation at PSG. And also Serginho Dest is an interesting one. He's been on Chelsea's radar since last year. And then also Dembele, this is a wild card.
Okay.
And he's not great to a new contract with Barcelona, but he would cost a lot in wages as he's a free agent. But according to Talk Sports, Dembele could join Chelsea this summer with Barca needing to clear out players because of their financial situation. I'm not sure how much I buy this one because I don't know. It just seems like I don't know if that is a player that Tuchel would want to bring in. Also, with the way Tuchel plays as well, I'm not sure how he would fit. So.
Well, and you're also looking at, I want to say it was a $170 million kitty that Thomas Tuchel would be party to bring in players. You've got to replace Christensen and Rudiger at the back. Yep. And it's going to be an interesting transfer window. It's going to be an interesting summer window, to say the very least, when it comes to Chelsea. Number 4 on the board, Spurs, 22-5-11. Antonio Conte came in and really turned things around for Spurs for them to finish 4th, 2 points ahead of Arsenal. What are you seeing with Spurs? And once again, when you get that injection of 150 million pounds into the company, Antonio Conte is like, yeah, okay, that looks good. I think I might stay for the next 12 months of my deal. What do you look at for Spurs?
Yeah, Spurs, I think, is going to look for a lot of potential players this summer. I think goalkeeper, center back, a winger, a central midfielder, and maybe potentially striker depth is something that they will look at. One of the players that they've been linked at is Bastoni, but Fabrizio Romano recently just reported that his agent has stated that he is going to stay at Inter, but Spurs are also discussing the possibility of Paul Torres, while Villarreal was in talks for Lo Celso, and he has been a part of Paratici's list since last summer. So that is another option at center back.
I know that Bergwijn is also a part of the discussion going outbound and trying to find
Yep.
an appropriate suitor for Bergwijn as well, who was brought in by Jose Mourinho, had that instant jump. He had the new player bump, and if you watched the Tottenham behind the scenes series All or Nothing, you got to see what Bergwijn had to do when he came for him integrating. But it looks like if a suitor can be found for Steven Bergwijn, he will be out the door as well. You mentioned Bukayo Saka earlier here. 5, Arsenal, 22-3-13. They kind of stumbled into it at the end, losing 2 of their last 3. Arsenal, what do you see from Mikel Arteta? And hopefully they continue to be patient with him as the build continues.
Well, they have a lot of work to do, especially yeah, especially after what happened this past season. They looked like they were going to be in top 4, but they kind of fell out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they need a striker, especially with Lacazette. He's apparently like close to joining Marseille.
Heading home.
Yeah, returning to his former home. And then also, I think a center midfielder and then a winger possibly with Pepe potentially being sold, and then a right back. And I think Arsenal's top targets are Gabriel Jesus and Yuri Tielemans. Fabrizio Romano has reported that the expectations that Jesus will leave City and join another Premier League club, and that Tielemans is the priority signing and new contacts with Leicester will take place soon. With Jesus, I would say I'm a bit like hesitant on this because I don't know. He's a player for me that he's a great player, but I don't know if he would be that goal scorer that Arsenal kind of need in a situation where they want to be in terms of the top 4. I feel like you could get better potentially strikers like out there.
What about Matt Turner coming in and challenging Aaron Ramsdale? What's your vibe on that?
I think that's a very interesting move for him. It'll be interesting to see how much playing time he gets, potentially challenging Aaron Ramsdale as well. I think he's done very well with the Revs, and he's just so much. His development has been incredibly. It's just been immense as well. I think hopefully the plan is that he will be able to like play in cup games maybe, and also just like continue the challenge for Ramsdale's spot. I think hopefully it's a situation where he gets adequate playing time. Because for me, if he doesn't, then I'm not sure how much worth this move is for him. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting move.
Erik ten Hag, come on down. Number 6, Manchester United at 16, 10, and 12. Gave up as many goals as you scored, 57 on the year. So that's about, 1.5 per. So 1.5 scored, 1.5 given up, 58 points. You lose your last 2. You come stumbling into the end of the 22 season. Ralph Rangnick, that experiment did not work at all. Cristiano Ronaldo apparently has said that he's in for the Erik ten Hag experience. I know we could probably do an entire show on what you think Manchester United needs to do, but what have you been hearing about this rebuild by Erik ten Hag?
So many players have been linked. I mean, that's always
I think the only 2 people that haven't been linked to Manchester United are me and you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but yeah, they are probably one of the biggest clubs that need a rebuild this season. Many players have been linked. I think center back is one of their key positions that needs some like improvement. We saw defensively that United kind of have struggled a bit last season. The center back pairing of Varane and also Maguire. I mean, they're both very good center backs, but at the same time, last season they kind of struggled a bit. So they need some more reinforcements of that. One player that I constantly keep hearing about is Hurrien Timber, who is a former player that Ten Hag coached. According to The Guardian, United have entered discussions with the 20-year-old Ajax defender. The transfer price would be around 50 million euros if the deal were to go through. And then also De Jong is a player that's also come up in the mix as well. According to Fabrizio Romano, United have open talks with Barcelona for him. And the price tag is around 85 million euros, and they are waiting for an opening bid. But the problem though is that De Jong does not want to leave Barca as he wants UCL football, and United, as of now, aren't in the Champions League. So
no, they're not. No.
But United will try to push again, however, as Barca, they do have financial issues that they need to solve. So any type of cash that comes their way, they will want to take in. So, and then this is an interesting one. N'Golo Kante has also been linked with the move to United. According to The Guardian, they are interested in signing him. His contract with Chelsea expires next year, but Chelsea are unlikely to be willing to sell him at the moment. And yeah, I think also another center back option for them has been Pau Torres. He's been discussed as a possible option at center back by Ten Hag, according to Fabrizio Romano. And then Joao Gomez is an interesting one. According to ESPN, United sent scouts to watch the Flamengo midfielder. United players are interested in him, but the club officials have noted that Andreas Pereira was a standout performer for the Brazilian club, and Pereira is currently on loan at Flamengo, and Manchester United are unlikely to outright sign him, but he could yet have a role with Ten Hag next season. So a lot of players. I think there are going to be plenty of more transfer rumors to come for United as
everybody linked to Manchester United. A couple of others to add to yours. Manchester United, Arsenal, and Spurs are passing on Paulo Dybala on a free. So apparently now his agent is having conversations with Inter about his where his CV will get its next line next year. Manchester United and Spurs apparently were also scouting the Austria-Denmark match to keep an eye on Christian Eriksen. So we'll keep an eye on that. And we know that Thomas Frank, which will be a part of part 2, when we talk about Brentford, who finished 13th, will do everything in their power to keep Christian Eriksen at Brentford Community Stadium next year. And Dean Henderson apparently is not going to be pursued by Newcastle as their number one keeper. So it looks like Dean Henderson might be staying at Manchester United next season as well right now. Number 7. Europa Conference League contender West Ham at 16, 8, and 14, 2 points behind Manchester United. They lost 3 of their last 5 to finish in 7th place. 60 goals scored, 51 allowed. When you look at the Hammers, what comes to mind?
Well, for one, they need a center back to improve their defense. And then also, I think they need some more depth up top. And I think one of the players that has been discussed as a center back option is Nayef Aguerd. According to Fabrizio Romano, West Ham, I think, have been getting close to reaching full agreement with him. He comes from Rennes and he's a center back, and negotiations are progressing as talks are underway. But final details about add-ons need to be addressed, and then the deal can be done. Jesse Lingard has also been discussed as an option. According to ESPN, West Ham are in talks to sign him as a free agent. I mean, I don't blame them for that. I mean, he did well last time he was with West Ham, so they will obviously want to sign him again. And then Ollie Watkins, this is an interesting one. Yeah. According to The Guardian, the Brentford striker, he's been identified as a key target for, or not Brentford, excuse me.
Villa.
Yeah, Villa, sorry. Villa, he's been identified as a key target for West Ham. And then Armando Broja is also an interesting one. West Ham has joined the race for him, and he has also been linked with Everton and Newcastle. So plenty of clubs will be looking at Broja, especially after his standout season. So
yeah, and he's he was one of those players that kind of flew below the radar, where everyone was gravitating toward other players when their first looks were there. Then all of a sudden Broja comes up and you're like, oh, we'll look at that one too. So we'll keep an eye on him as well, and we'll probably talk about him in part 2 as well. 8th, a team that did not make any kind of European football, Leicester. Leicester won 3 of their last 4, unbeaten in their last 4 to close the season, and they really needed it. Finished at 52 points, stormed up the table to 14, 10, and 14. When you look at the Foxes, what comes to mind?
When it comes to the Foxes, I think that they need a...
Yes, they do. You're absolutely correct. They do.
They need a center back depth, I think.
They need, yes. Leicester needs, period.
They absolutely need that. Defensively, they just completely and utterly struggled last season. I think also they potentially need some more midfield depth as well, especially with Tielemans and his potential link away from Leicester.
Yep.
I think just defensively as a whole, they just need to improve on that aspect. I think one concern is that Vardy is he's becoming a lot much older now.
Yeah, and he's injury prone, and you wonder what you can do to try to replace him and his output, and you run the risk of With Jamie Vardy, yes, you kind of have to hang on to him because of what he's meant to the club, but you have to weigh the financials there for anything long term. What is his future? Injury prone as well. You're going to need help in someone who's going to be around a lot more than Jamie Vardy was last season because of injury.
Yeah, and of course they also signed Patson Daka as well, the former Salzburg striker, and he's 23. So maybe that's a potential option. But of course, I think they also, with potentially Vardy, being injury prone and all these other factors coming in. I mean, he's a big player for them, and to not necessarily have him fully fit all the time, that's a big loss for Leicester. So I think forward up top is something that they definitely need to improve on as well. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the potential players coming out, because I think that'll determine a lot with what Leicester do in the transfer window.
Because you're going to have to look at that first level of transactions and then figure out what's good business for Leicester with that second level. And all those big names are gone. Who's left over, and what can you do if you're Brendan Rodgers? Ninth. Brighton had a historic season under Graham Potter. Oh, and by the way, Leicester, 13th in goals allowed this past season in the Premier League, allowing 59 goals, only scoring 62. But yeah, for the 8th team in the table, you're right there with Manchester United, but you gave up 59 goals last season. So that's something that they've really got to address with their defense. Brighton, historic season under Graham Potter. Yes, you finished 12, 15, and 11, but you finished 9th, unbeaten in your last 5. You win 3 of your last 4 to get there. Brighton, you mentioned Mark Cucurella as a possible outbound that could help the coffers for Brighton and Hove Albion.
Yeah, and for me, I think their needs are a midfielder and a striker as well. There have been 2 names that I think have been sort of looked at for striker. One of them was Martin Braithwaite, which I find to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
According to Mundo Deportivo, Brighton, along with Celta and Valencia, are interested in him. And then also Steffi Mavadidi. According to Fabrizio Romano, the 24-year-old Montpellier striker could leave the club this summer. And many clubs have approached his agents, including Brighton, West Ham, Southampton, Everton, and Marseille, Olympique Marseille. So a lot of clubs in for Mavadidi as well.
And that's one of the things I think we have to look at when you mention Ligue 1 sides is the overall financials and how poor they are for teams that aren't named PSG. I mean, you look at what we've seen with Lyon and how they have fallen, Marseille, and how they've fallen financially, not necessarily in the table, because obviously it's hard to repeat where you've been, but the financials overall in Ligue 1 are hurting. So you could see a lot of the quality talent that's there from the teams that are not in the European places really making moves, and they could be absolute bargains for teams, not just in the Premier League like we're talking about here, but worldwide.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely a place much more where teams will focus their emphasis on in terms of signing players. I mean, you just absolutely have to cash in with the financial issues that Liga sides are facing right now. I mean, you just have to. I mean, with the quality that a lot of these teams have with these players. I mean, for example, like Newcastle, they signed Bruno from Olympique Marseille. Yeah. And that was something that, they kind of took advantage of the financial situation going around in Liga, for example. And I think more talent like that will follow along with these teams that are interested in players like Mavadidi. So
last team on the board for part 1 is Wolves, 15, 6, and 17. And they lost 3 of their last 5, only 2 points in their last 5 matches to finish the season. And yes, you look at the defense for Wolves, they only gave up 43 goals because I think a lot of folks overlooked Jose Sa and what he was able to do between the 6 and really save Wolves on a lot of occasions. Could have been a lot worse for them, finishing at 51 points. They had a goal difference of -5, and that's why they finished 10th. When you look at Wolves, I think it's safe to say, so let me guess, scoring.
Yes, for sure. That's something that I think they need to do a lot more of in the coming season. That was
no doubt about that, brother. A goal a game. They definitely need to do that.
Yeah, they struggled a lot with that. And I mean, for a team like Wolves that has plenty of talent, I mean, you have players like Neto and Jimenez, among others, and you just have to be scoring more with players like those. So I think striker, for example, is one that I think that Wolves should be looking at. According to Team Talk, Wolves are interested in signing Blackburn Rover striker Brenton Diaz.
Ben Brereton Diaz. There's the first mention of that name today.
Yeah, and but also Leeds, Brighton, Nottingham, and Southampton are also interested. So a lot of Premier League clubs.
Why, yes, they are.
Will be after him. So yeah, for me, that's definitely a position just to sort of attack Wolves need to bolster, because for me they are a better team than than they showed last year. I mean, they should be somewhere around the top six, I would say, or top eight at least. And last year they just kind of struggled and were a bit disappointing for a team that has so much quality with and their attack and just exciting players. I mean, you would expect them like this season to sort of potentially do better. So,
all right. So that's 1 through 10. That's Prim and Proper post match pre transfer window part 1. Give me a tease for part 2. You don't have to spill a secret, but what's a tease for the second part when we talk about 11 through 17 and the 3 new guys?
yeah, I mean, for the new guys, they have a lot of work to do. Obviously, it's going to be their first time in the Premier League, so they're going to be looking to spend on players quite a bit. As it'll be interesting to see the players that they bring in, and just to see their intent on what they want to do in the Premier League this season. Because of course, I mean, they have a lot of work to do. Because of course, coming in, it's like the quality. There's a huge gap in quality between some of these teams, and among others. So that's definitely for the new promoted teams. I mean, welcome to the Premier League. I mean, the golf and quality is something where you're going to have to be able to sort of just match that in a way. So
Burnley, Watford, Norwich going down, Fulham, Bournemouth, and Nottingham Forest heading up. It's going to be an interesting discussion when we talk about them. Newcastle, Palace, Brentford, Villa, Southampton, Everton, and Leeds. That's host Nyle. I'm Jon. That's Prem and Proper postseason, preseason, pre-transfer window part 1. Play it safe. We'll see you for part 2.